Hello, my audience. Greetings, my fellow audience. My name is Jake Allen Grant, my newcomers, and welcome to my YouTube channel where I will be reviewing All Star Batman and Robin story from DC. I give this 8 points out of 10 points. It says guilty pleasure like the Dark Knight trilogy. Good as. Of a guilty pleasure up there with the Dark Knight trilogy. So what Batman says shut up to a 12-year-old boy Dick Grayson after kidnapping and traumatized after his parents are murdered. So what he says so he says to Dick Grayson, who becomes Robin, he says, "Are you dense? Are you retarded? You don't know who I." As a response, because Dick Grayson doesn't know who Batman is in this timeline, so he questions if he's dense and retarded, and calls himself the goddamn Batman. That's who he is. The goddamn Batman. He calls himself. Bruce Wayne, billionaire, kidnaps a traumatized 12-year-old Dick Grayson into becoming a sidekick and calls him dense, questions if he's dense and retarded out loud while calling himself the goddamn Batman in a third person out loud to Dick Grayson. That is funny. And also, he paints himself yellow to trap when. You know how in the Silver Age, originally Green Lantern, his only weakness was the color yellow, because the ring won't work on anything yellow, because tied to the yellow lanterns. And you know how they eventually fix that so it can work on yellow stuff. So that was later after Silver Age. So basically, so I understand my knowledge. So Batman paints a whole room yellow, and he wears a yellow costume. It makes Dick do the same thing with a yellow Robin costume. And then they paint their skins yellow. It was funny, this movie. This comic story was funny. These panels are funny. Ideas. I'm sorry, I enjoy this a lot and all, but it's stupid. Like the Dark Knight trilogy. It's a decent guilty pleasure as 8 points out of. You know what? I'm not going to give it 8 points out of 10. I'm giving it 10 out of 10. The whole thing's just a riot. I give this story a 10 points out of 10 because it's a fucking riot. Comical genius. Writing with where it takes these characters and what does throws that with the board and the story is this. Holy shit. Dialogue's kind of funny sometimes with him calling Dick retarded. It's the dumbest things he said in it. Comic history was also funny in that Tropic Thunder way. If you're a fan of Seth MacFarlane's work, like those vulgar comedians with raunchy humor and jokes, it's funny. I find that shit. All-Star Batman and Robin gets 10 points out of 10. This was funny shit. It was as funny as the Dark Knight trilogy. Maybe a little more funnier and absurd because it's more in that comic book world. So this is more funny than the Dark Knight trilogy. I think it's better than the Dark Knight trilogy. I like it more. It's geniusly a comedy, morbid comedy starring Batman. It comes across as a morbid comedy spoof on the comic genre Batman comics. With this morbid humor, like seeing Wonder Woman and Superman bang. No, wait, that's a different story. In this one, they just kiss. Wonder Woman and Superman make out after they sound like they're going to start after the fight a lot. Was arguing like a little bitches. And then they basically they make out after arguing. First time we meet them, the first time they show these characters in the story is funny. And I love it's funny when Superman says a bad word. Funny, like he says, "Dom." That is funny. And it's also funny Batgirl's vulgarity when she takes on the mantle of Batgirl, calling the thugs and crippling them before getting arrested. And it's also kind of funny how she encourages her dad to move on from mom and go be with the one she loves. The one he loves. You know, is what Batgirl says. She says about her mother needs to get ditched. And Gordon needs to move on from the mother of Batgirl and go for the original girl the other girl from that other Batman storyline that's connected to this Batman. One More Year is a tie-in story to this story. Take place before the ending events of directed by Frank Miller, written by. This story was. And so this in this story again we see, he starts communicating and talking to reuniting the old flame of the girl he had an affair with, romantic affair with his wife in the events of Batman Year One, and decides to go back to be with that girl and leave his wife that has become a drunk and a degenerate one. Think about it. She's useless parent and a useless, unwilling to please her man in life. And she gets her own daughter gets the idea to take the idea looking up to Batman and dressing like Batman and taking under the mantle of Batgirl in the story, then gets arrested after getting caught with the police. So great storytelling, I think that is. Explains why I think that, and explains why I think that makes sense why on narrative structure why it makes sense thematically for Gordon to go leave his wife and that he made like Barbara Gordon with, and for the other girl that he was having a love affair in the events of Batman Year One, decides to reconnect that love and save that love and not let her go, and basically ditch the other girl that's also named Barbara Gordon, named, and his daughter got named after Barbara Gordon. Uh, that becomes Batgirl in the story and the events of world building of Batman by Frank Miller's mythology. I give this a 10 points out of 10. It's a good, like a comedy, morbid comedy, like a South Park humor. Personally, I like South Park. I'm a fan of South Park. From what I mean, now I'm not going to claim I'm one of those crazy, edgy, yet diehard fans of South Park. I've seen every episode and everything related to South Park. So I'm not one of those fans yet. I'm just a fan of South Park's jokes and the animation style and the episodes I've seen. I've seen a little of South Park, but I am considering myself a fan. Now, this is not like a hard fan that has seen everything involving South Park yet, but I want to be. Anyway, the point is, I think this story deserves a 10 out of 10 and deserves to be appreciated. And I do not appreciate this movie. This story has gotten a bad rap on the internet for critics and stuff. Personally, I think people are being over dramatic. So many critics that don't like the story. It doesn't seem fair because there's a lot of. It's not a great Batman serious story, but it's more of like a. If you like Silver Age Batman, like the one that Aaron West played and Val and Clooney played, you'll probably like this one. Where they try to be more intentionally funny and less edgy and serious, and in Batman's head less, and more this having punch stuff and stuff. Like the bad guy. So, true, he's not as interesting as complex Wesley. He's played more for laughs and kind of a doofus. But then again, so was Anna West, When he got when he got the people's bodies mixed up at the end of Batman, the original movie. So what it was probably stupid of him actually to have shock propeller. But again, so was Batman punching a shark in the Arkham City game. I remember I played that game. He punched a shark. Not this punch, but beat the shit out of the shark. You get to punch the shark as many times as you like to punch the shark in the Batman Arkham City game. I see this as a nice nod to the Silver Age Batman, where was played by great Adam West, may he rest in peace for all eternity. Was playing this, got a lot I just think that's kind of interesting how he got a lot of shit for having a shock propeller. And that was stupid, but it wasn't stupid of Batman to ever punch a shark. But it's stupid when Anna West punched a shark multiple times to get it off him after the shark repel fails. Then he punches the shark multiple times to beat the shark off him, his leg. And Batman does the same scene. Arkham Batman, played by the great Kevin Conroy, he rest in peace for all eternity, who's also beats the shit out of Shark in the Arkham game, Arkham 2 City. He doesn't use a shark, he just whips the fuck, kung fu's the fuck out of the thing, which ninjutsu Batman does, with the martial arts skills, just shit. I love the Arkham games. I love the 60s Batman. And I love Frank Miller's Batman. Frank Miller's Batman has a quite a big legacy that I want to talk about in each separate video for each one story that he made by Frank Miller that's connected to his universe. So this was awesome. 10 points out of 10. All-Star Batman, Robin, The Boy Wonder. All-Star Batman, Robin, The Boy Wonder is the name of this. Is what I meant to say. Okay, that's the name of the video, the title of the story. I give this a 10 points out of 10 points. Goodbye. Subscribe to my content. Like this video. Subscribe to my content. And okie dokie. Toodles. Bye.